Good morning to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Sunday, the 7th of October, 2018. I sound worse than I am. I have just a little bit of a scratchy throat. I was also up late last night. Yesterday, I had to go kind of at the last minute and drive out to Rodanthe on the Outer Banks. Remember the camera that I had out on the pier for Hurricane Florence? Well, I had to go get that. It was still there. And with what's going to be eventually Hurricane Michael looming, I had to go get that camera so that I have as many as I can for this upcoming mission. So I decided to go ahead and get it done yesterday. So I spent about 10 hours on the road and got back pretty late. Worked on a few pieces of equipment in the garage and finally got in bed around 3 a.m. And I woke up just a little bit ago, so here we are. All right, so let's get on with it. There's a problem brewing here in the Caribbean Sea. This area, climatologically favored this time of year. We saw this coming several weeks ago, perhaps, with some of the first indications from people such as Ben Knoll, who talked about the different models indicating that this area would be busy this time of year. The European showing the upward motion, the MJO, just the favorability was coming back to this area, and here we are. So we mouse over this, we get the information that we do have a tropical depression, and it's forecast to become a hurricane, a tropical storm later today, and then a hurricane heading up towards the Central Gulf Coast, the Florida Panhandle more than likely, and this could be a big problem, as some of the modeling indicating that this could be pretty strong. So we'll talk about that, because we got to be real careful that we don't get lost in categories only. Okay, we have to remember that. We should learn from Florence, and we also need to learn that what it's forecast today could change tomorrow or the next day, and you have a period of rapid intensification and you're in big trouble. So this is the current setup, a landfall forecast for somewhere in here along the Florida Panhandle, coming up sometime Wednesday into Thursday. So probably late Wednesday afternoon, something like that. Then this goes inland. Unlike Florence, this is going to keep moving. So you folks here in Georgia, the inland portions of the Florida Panhandle, through parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, where you don't need any more rain at all, this area could be impacted. So we have a lot to consider and a lot to be preparing for what will eventually be Hurricane Michael. All right, looking at the broad satellite picture, a couple things to point out. This is Leslie, and it's going to be interesting to see how this tracks over the next several days, maybe towards Europe. This is an upper level low. This will help to vent what will be Michael. We need to watch energy coming out here that'll eventually try to develop in the Caribbean Sea. It's just a busy time, as exactly as advertised by the global models. They were suggesting this. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. We have these seasonal forecasts, which they're not very good. You know, when you talk months ahead of time, oh, well, the season's going to be active or not active. You have to start somewhere, so I'm not insulting those forecasts. But, boy, once you get to within intra-seasonal forecasting abilities, such as looking at the upward motion potential, and upward motion is very important because the air has to rise to get these tropical cyclones. There's Leslie, TD14, Sergio in the Pacific. You got to have rising air. If the air is sinking and drying, nope, it doesn't work. And certainly doesn't work very well. And right now we are in a favorable rising motion for the Atlantic Basin for the most part, especially the western part of the basin. And it was well telegraphed a while back. And the one in September that gave us eventually Florence also was well seen. I talked about it in August. I said, it's coming, it's coming. And it wasn't Mark figuring it out all by himself. You know how I operate. We look and we see what other people who are smarter than us combined, me included, and they give us these clues. And so here we are. It's starting to come together right off the eastern part of the Yucatan over very warm water. Upper ocean heat content is high. And there's a couple of things that I want you to notice. We are not seeing the upper level winds just tearing across as strong as we were. There's still some strong upper level winds, the wind shear, but it is starting to get that sort of fanned out look to it. Instead of being stretched out, it's able to fan out, meaning that the upper level outflow is trying to become established. In the Pacific, just real quick, Sergio is going to turn back towards the Baja, so there will be a tropical storm impact for portions of the central Baja, and then northwest Mexico, and some of that moisture will stream into parts of the southwest, and maybe West Texas. So we will be focusing on that as well. Another big rain threat coming up. I don't think it'll be as prevalent for Phoenix as it was with Rosa, for example, but we'll watch Sergio closely in the days to come. All right, so let's look at a few of the things that I'm going to be watching closely. We know that the Gulf of Mexico is warm, but how warm is it? What's the upper ocean heat content like? And we can see on this particular chart that where TD14 is located now, upper ocean heat content is pretty impressive, and the path that it is likely to take up something like that, it'll be traveling over very warm water. Now, this is not the warmest water that it could possibly travel over, but believe me, this water is warm, and that warm water extends down below the surface to a depth that is sufficient enough that as it churns along, it's just churning up more warm water. That's what we refer to as the upper ocean heat content. It's not just the skin or the surface of the water where we go swimming, right? It is below that, and it varies about how deep that goes. And it's not until right up against the shelf up here, shelf water, that the upper ocean heat content is limited, because it's real easy to mix that water. All right, so that's the TCHP, or what we call tropical cyclone heat potential, or upper ocean heat content. This is a very nice contoured, doesn't have the contours on it, but it's the gradient showing the different sea surface temperatures. None of these are anomalies, by the way. This is the actual sea surface temperatures, and I really like this chart. And if we look at the scale, anything in the yellow, especially bright yellow and to the right, is 29.5 Celsius or higher. And if we look at the probable path that this will take over the next few days, up towards somewhere in here for a landfall, it's got to cross this, and it has to cross this. And all of those are in sort of orange color, right? You see that just as well as I do. And what does that equate to? Getting close to 29.9, almost 30 Celsius. And every quarter of a degree, all of that matters, because we're talking vast amounts of energy with even just a quarter to a half a degree Celsius difference in water temperature, sea surface temperature. So looking at this, a couple of little areas here that this will cross that have a little bit higher sea surface temperatures than even where it is now, believe it or not. But the ocean heat content is different. The water is much deeper that's warm down here. Bottom line, folks, this has the potential to be a significant hurricane for wherever it makes landfall. Hard to say right now how strong, but this is starting to make me a little nervous. All right, and we're going to get into that. I got to talk very factually with you and motivate some people to take this very seriously. So the modeling, this is the spaghetti plot as it's called, and you can get an idea of the spread. It's a little bit spread out right now. We don't have a nice tight cluster, and that's helpful. You don't want it aimed at you, but if it is, you want to have confidence that that's correct if you're going to prepare. I mean, I guess you'd rather it miss, I guess, but you don't want false alarms. I would like to see this a little bit tighter, but oh well. Sometimes nature doesn't do what I like. So you folks here from, extreme southeast Louisiana over to the Big Bend area, and even Tampa, because some of the effects on that eastern side can spread out towards the Florida Peninsula, even if landfall of the center is going to happen along the Panhandle, because that's what this is showing. This is showing the center forecast positions from the various models. It doesn't tell us how big it's going to be aerial-wise, right, the aerial extent, how much rain it's going to drop, at least this will be moving relatively quickly, or how much storm surge there will be. I imagine that there will be some rise in water all along the area to the right of where this makes landfall. All right, that's my logical conclusion from doing this for 22 years, okay? I believe that from, Naples all the way over to obviously where it makes landfall, you're going to see some kind of a surge or a rise in the water levels. So please be mindful of that. The intensity guidance, this is from this morning early, 6Z or UTC, and the modeling now coming up towards hurricane intensity, the statistical models, as well as the dynamical hurricane-specific models. The HWRF up almost to Category 2, and the GFS, which is the AVN interpolated here, also Category 1. So the official forecast is for this to be a hurricane. Probably, if I had to guess, I would put this at a good chance of being 100 miles per hour or higher. That's just my gut feeling on this one. So Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale or higher won't surprise me in the least. 100 miles per hour or higher is my guess. Okay, it's not a forecast, so to speak. It's just how I feel about it. Looking at everything, and if you want to call it a forecast, I don't care. And if I'm wrong, that would be fantastic in this situation, because I'm not feeling good about this one. So we'll see. We'll talk about impacts at the end here. So this is what the GFS from the 6Z run shows. Let me point out what's what. Mid-Atlantic states, the Carolinas, there's the Florida Peninsula, the Panhandle, southeast Louisiana, through the Bay of Campeche, so forth and so on. So let's put this into motion. This is the next 5 days, and we're at 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. I like to look at this for structure. And boy, look at how round it gets fairly quickly coming through the Yucatan Channel. That's why I'm worried that this will intensify quicker than the models are suggesting. And then it makes landfall right up here along the Florida Panhandle, near Destin, between Destin and Panama City Beach perhaps. And then all of that energy goes up into the Piedmont of North Carolina and then across the Mid-Atlantic states through that 5-day period. Let's speed this up just a little bit. All right, so you see it really starting to come together there. That very healthy, round appearance. I talk about this so much on my updates. And when I see that really worries me, that we have a healthy cyclone in the model field. And it moves on up with a landfall right there. GFS suggesting Wednesday afternoon. So that would be a daytime landfall. And that means that we would be able to launch our weather balloon. At least there's that. And daytime landfalls are better because people can see, and it's just less scary overall. So let's hope that that part of this is going to happen somewhere. If it happens in that alleyway, daytime would be better, to be honest with you. And then as this moves on, I talked about this, all right, we really need to acknowledge this is going to be moving. It still looks very healthy in southwest Georgia. So, power outages, trees down. Ask the people down here in my neck of the woods how much they enjoy the trees down in their houses. Unfortunately, and it almost sounds snarky the way I said that, and I shouldn't have, because I'm trying to be very serious here. The first deaths that we had from Florence were from a tree in Wilmington that went through a house and killed a mother and the infant child. And so trees coming down. Now what are you going to do? You're going to run out tomorrow and cut all your trees down if you're here in southwest Georgia? No, of course not. But I am making you aware that when you see this inland, and this is heavily wooded through here. Come on now, it's the southeast. trees coming down is going to be a big problem, okay? And you could be looking at hurricane conditions maybe this far inland. 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts, absolutely, I would, sure. All right, and then, the heavy rain that comes with it, the threat of tornadoes, especially in that right front quadrant over here, perhaps, in those bands. So, I say this often, this is going to be inland Georgia's hurricane too. And as it moves on up, the upstate of South Carolina, your hurricane too. Might not be a hurricane up there, but at some point it's going to be a hurricane. So this is your hurricane problem too, all the way up into the Georgia, into the Carolinas, the Piedmont there, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, NC State, Duke, UNC Chapel Hill, you name it, UNC Greensboro, UNC Wilmington. I think they finally went back in. Maybe they don't go in until tomorrow or Tuesday. But I laugh, I shouldn't, but this is going to cancel some classes, all right? A big disruptive event coming up. And this could be a strong hurricane in here. And then it's going to be a strong dying hurricane from there. So please take this very seriously. And then it goes on, of course, into the mid-Atlantic states. And, yeah, that's going to bring severe weather. You see that sort of front that develops out of it? Problematic. Big, big, big problems coming up. Looking at the European, it's a different vantage point because I'm pulling this off of Levi Cowan's site, thetropicaltidbits.com. The initial conditions from the 0Z run, 24 hours out. I mean, look, just 24 hours out. So tomorrow morning, I mean, it looks already very healthy there, getting ready to go through the Yucatan Channel. That's what worries me. 48 hours in the southern Gulf of Mexico over that. I mean, look at where it is there, just north of the Yucatan, and look what's north of the Yucatan here. The higher ocean heat content in the Gulf of Mexico. 72 hours, just looking more and more healthy. And then finally, at 96 hours, now this is a little slower. All right, so this would put it coming in at night, Wednesday night into Thursday after midnight. And that's no bueno. I don't like that at all. Boo, thumbs down. Please don't do that. But it shows an intense tropical cyclone there, folks. There's no getting around it. Finally, at 120 hours, 5 days, a little bit of a different path, and then out towards, the more southern route there. Yeah, I mean, we don't need that. So somewhere between, what the GFS is showing, that's pretty good representation, I think, right? Remember what it showed? Big problems coming up here, ladies and gentlemen. So please take this seriously. And I don't want to just keep piling it on, but if we look at day 6 and then day 7, that's day 6. There's day 7. We got more energy trying to develop here south of Jamaica. So you folks in Jamaica, the Caymans, and eventually Central America, I do believe that we will see the N storm, Nadine, form after about a week's time. Real quick, just a geography lesson for you. The area of most concern for landfall, at least right now, Apalachicola region, Panama City Beach, the Destin area. I mean, this could be very bad. The storm surge potential in there, especially if this is coming in at an angle, something like that. Just do your geometry there, your right front quadrant. Storm surge will pile up the most on the right-hand side. You'll also push that surge up into the Appalachia Bay, St. Mark's perhaps, Carabel. They're going to, I don't know how bad it would be there. We'll see. Maybe Cedar Key, Tampa, all that onshore flow over here sending the water towards this part of the coast. That's going to be a problem. We're thinking impacts here, okay? We've talked about what it could do, where it could go. Now we need to talk impacts. And then we see these cities inland, all right? Enterprise, Dothan, up through Columbus and beyond, maybe Valdosta, depending on if the euro is, more accurate with its depiction, and then on up into the southeast. I don't know if Atlanta would be as impacted, but Macon, Augusta, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, maybe, Wilmington again, Fayetteville, I already talked about the Triangle area, and then maybe, depending on its track, Southeast Virginia up through the Delmarva region. Yeah, I mean, this is the real deal. When we're talking hurricane impacts where they move in and keep going like that, you impact a lot of people, even far from the coast. So get ready. This one's got trouble written all over it. I hate to say it. So my plans, we're mobilizing the troops, and we're going to be heading down to the Gulf Coast starting tomorrow. Got a lot of work to do to get all the equipment ready. We will be taking the weather balloon, the Herbie, Hurricane Research Balloon. Got the helium, got the payload, everything's ready. We'll be setting up the live cameras. Also, we'll be setting up GoPro systems that record long duration as backup. And that's really a very awesome project, which I will reveal what we did in Florence at a later time. We're getting there, just a lot going on. And I have good news for you, especially the Android app folks. Hurricane Impact is available on Google Play. You need to search Hurricane Impact, and it's available. The Twitter part doesn't work. We haven't had a chance to update that yet, but don't worry about that. You can follow me on Twitter just in the Twitter app. I tried to put it in our app to make it convenient, but the API is broken, and that's no big deal. We can handle that. The video is what I was most concerned about, and that is why I took it out of the Google Play Store. It's now back in because we have solved the video problem. So, during this mission, Android users will be able to watch the live video and all the other cool things that we do in the app, okay? And then we will be working on an update just to tweak it and make it back to 100%. So I wanted to share that with you. It is back in the Google Play Store. Search Hurricane Impact, and of course it's on the App Store for iPhone users. And in the iPhone version, it's perfect. It is exactly where I want it. And it really did well during Florence. People are literally complimenting me about it that I have seen out in the public. It really makes me feel good because I've put a lot of time and money into developing this thing. And so it's available, all right? And it's just a few dollars, okay? And it really helps to support. And it's a one-time purchase. It's not recurring. Also, all of you that are following on Patreon, we will be posting updates there as well. They have that really neat thing called Lens, where I can do these 15-second rolling, like chronologically ordered videos. That's pretty cool, and that's exclusive to our Patreon users. And of course, then I'll be posting stuff to social media, and we will be live on YouTube for everybody, free, once we get rolling, probably on Tuesday. Tomorrow's travel day through wherever we're going, and no reason to waste bandwidth just driving across the countryside. But on Tuesday, we'll go live for everybody. All right, well, this was a long update, but it was needed, and it's important because we have a particularly, possibly, very dangerous situation coming up. I almost said PDS, like when we talk about tornadoes. But you know what? This has the potential to be very dangerous, so please take it seriously. Not going to have a week to prepare and just watch it and, well, let's see what happens. Time's already running out, and I need you to keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to post another update early this evening. Shorter, because we'll get more to the point on things. This is your broad brush look. No, well, it's a broad brush look, but it's also very detailed. We covered a lot. I'll start to focus, which is good because I'm going to go back to sleep in a few minutes. That'll help me. And we'll cover more of the details of impacts starting this afternoon, early evening. All right? All right, I'm done for now. I got to go back to bed, get a little bit more shut-eye. I need my energy. Here we go again. I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'll post another video discussion early this evening.